everybody, and welcome to Blood Rush League. We're here with the upper bracket, round 4, Aegis versus Unholy. We have Aegis killing first with Valdez on the killer, the ghoul on the suffocation pit. And Unholy's survivors roster will be Ana, Shelly, Dan, and Pedro. And Ana gets found on this main building. Valdez gets attacked, sees Shelly crossing, drops the chase, and goes for a quick second injury here. Survivors of Unholy crossing rather aggressively, and Valdez seems to be deciding to commit on this main building. Ana a little bit caught out, and this might be the first down of the game coming through rather quickly. The survivors hadn't really had time to get on any generators just yet. Now the good news is that this down happened in the corrupted area of the map, but definitely coming through a tiny bit earlier than Unholy would have hoped. Luckily, we see Dan in the vicinity ready for the pull, as Valdez is still trying to find the unhooker. Now, Shelly and Pedro have crossed successfully and are working on generators on the bot side of the map. And right now, Valdez is just trying to find the person playing for the unhook, but little does he know that Dan has been in position for quite a while already. Valdez is now back on the hook, and I'm assuming as soon as the next overextension from the killer comes through, the unhook will follow. But right now, Team Unholy are just getting free progress on their generators. But with this gen setup, Valdez won't be too concerned about it. Gets a great tag onto Dan, who was playing for the unhook, but we do see loose 4-gen on this top side of the suffocation pit. Now Ana in chase, recently gotten unhooked, has a balanced landing. Can she make use of it? Makes it to the mid-map of suffocation pit, has a pallet gym to play, and a jungle gym as well. Really good mid-map RNG for the survivor. Valdez goes for a vault here, but Ana should be able to make it back around. Vaults through the pallet, and 2 gens get completed on the bot side of the map. Now this chase is in the perfect position for the survivor team. Generators have been popped. Pedro is here for the body block, takes a hit for Ana, extending the tunnel out by quite a good time. Now Ana back on the jungle gym. Dan also coming in for some altruistic plays. Really good teamwork from the survivor side. Dan taking a tag, but Ana is in a position to use balanced landing now. Dan on the pallet gym, plays it very masterfully. Oh, Valdez unfortunately cancelling power there instead of vaulting, forced to break the pallet. Now the first down came through very quickly. The survivors have taken chase to the perfect position, popped 2 gens for it. Wretched Fate is active, and Valdez realizes, okay, I've got to leave this chase, I've got to defend my topside gens. Finds another generator at roughly 80% that the survivors have been working away at. And does find Shelly on the Nancy, gets a tag, but Shelly just sends it bot side again. Unfortunately, no more pallets to play here, but Valdez decides to drop chase and look for more survivors on the top side of the map. Does not find any gen progress here. Only this highly progressed gen on 3 that also has his Pergo Wretched Fate nearby. Checking the locker, sees Pedro's scratch marks, and decides to chase our Fong on the main building. Nice attempt at a cutoff here, but Pedro makes it back to the pallet. Gets the stun, beautiful play. Blind barely not coming through as Valdez breaks the pallet, but Pedro makes a good distance here. Makes it to another rather safe pallet. Valdez forced to break again, but Pedro is going to be zoned very soon here. Makes it to the window, gets the vault. Has to win a 50 here to make it back to the pallet. Great patience, but Valdez gets the down. Eruption coming through on the active gen, and now we find ourselves with a hook on the top side of the map again. Valdez has a Scourge Hook Pain Resonance available, and will be able to regress this highest progress gen even further. So even though the first 2 gens got completed and there has not been a tunnel out yet, this gen that was at roughly 80% is back to negligible progress, and Valdez sets his eyes on Shelly, sees Ana crossing, and decides, you know what, this is the better target. Gets the injury perfectly timed, back into enragement, does not commit though. still has a great setup on the top side of the map. Shelly. Oh, unfortunately, Valdez hits Pedro on the hook instead of hitting Shelly, who was playing for the unhook. Now Pedro on the main building again. And Valdez, unfortunately, does not get the cutoff onto the pallet, onto the window. Has to drop chase here. This game is slowing down a little bit. No downs coming through. As Valdez finds another injury onto Shelly, but Shelly is just able to send it bot side away from the active generators. And yeah, again, Unholy have been able to stabilize really well. They would have really loved to complete that generator on 3, which unfortunately didn't happen. But yeah, we are very far from a tunnel out. And Valdez does not see himself in a position to commit onto Ana either. Leaves for topside again, sees Dan. Unfortunately, does not get the injury with the power, but a quick M1 comes through. Gets another injury onto Dan. Now the Unholy Survivor Squad has been injured quite a lot. They're playing a dangerous game here. But with that Chase prowess on display, they're able to play this injured. Now going for a double reset on the bot side of the map, while Pedro is occupying the main building. And this is probably not the chase you want to go for long term. This pallet is not very safe. Does Pedro make it around one more time? Yes, he does. Greets the pallet, does not drop it yet, gets the stun. And I think that was Smash It coming through, beautifully played by our Bong. Valdez with the cutoff attempt. Pedro makes it back to the pallet, has the window. Just another day on ladder for Pedro. As Valdez is looking for other survivors as another bot side generator pops. But we still have the 4-gen setup on the top side of the map that we need to break if we want to get outs in this game. And this has really been the problem for Valdez on this map. Suffocation Pit is a very large map, has a lot of fillers topside, as Ana unfortunately lets go of the gen and misses a skill check, working the generator in the killer's face, knowing the survivors are in a very comfortable position if they can just run bot side. Takes the chase to the jungle gym again, but again this pallet has been used. Valdez gets the grab through the window. Beautifully played by our Ghoul. And this was a pain resonance coming through after Valdez had previously hooked Ana on a non-scourge hook and finds Dan, who was playing for pull, expecting a vault, but Dan just sends it to the TNL. Avoids an injury here. Very, very important. As Valdez unfortunately misses the Kagune leap there. Dan takes the M1, sends it to Shaq. As our other survivors are working topside, and he does get the stun on this very, very safe filler. Again, the chase taking place where the gens have already been completed. Valdez knows he cannot commit to this, expects someone to play for the unhook. But we do see that our survivors are prioritizing the gens on the top side of the map. And Valdez is able to stop this generator at about 90% progress yet again. Ana gets unhooked, second wind in play. A reset gonna come through quickly as Shelly does get spotted. Does take another M1 tag here. Injuries are plenty, but not as many downs as Valdez would have liked. Unfortunately goes for the power here as well, instead of being able to cut off Shelly from the pallet. We find Pedro here, who has a decent filler to play as well, with some map geometry. Beautiful pathing, knows his distance well, but Valdez does get the cutoff, gets the down onto Vong. And this is going to be a hook inside the active generators. Well played by our goal. Again, Pedro has already been hooked previously, so no pain resonance coming through. More resets on the bot side of the map, so the Unholy survivors really have a game plan here. Take a tag, send it bot, play for the reset, pressure topside gens again, as you usually do with the 4-gen on Suffocation Pit. But Valdez is now able to stop the survivors from crossing, having confirmed a hook on the top side of the map. And this is still winnable for the killer side, even though no tunnel out has been achieved just yet. Now this generator is gonna get quite close to the regression limit. I think a lot of Eruption and Pain Resonance have struck this generator and stopped it from its completion. Valdez expects someone to still be around, and he is right. He finds Dan. Gets a beautiful tag onto him. But yeah, the 4-gen may have been broken, but the 3-gen is still very much intact. And with the great map mobility that the Ghoul has available for himself, this is very, very holdable. Shelly does not vault the pallet. Fortunately doesn't make it back to it and does go down here, which symbolizes another Pain Resonance stack, which is just what Valdez needs right now. As we see Ana and Pedro stacking a topside generator, the pressure is mounting on the Survivor side. If a tunnel out onto Pedro happens here soon, they might be in trouble. Now Valdez takes an injury onto Ana, who is also on death hook. Oh man, this is such a ping pong between the active gens, as Dan gets found during the rotation, makes it back to the pallet, gets the drop. Valdez decides to break here. But yeah, the survivors splitting that gen pressure very well. I don't think Valdez will be able to defend this hook if he doesn't want to lose his final generator. Goes for another eruption. Anuk comes through. Great pressure from the survivor side, but they're playing with fire. Everybody's now injured. 2 people are on death hook, and Dan does not get downed. Beautiful play. Great movement with the sprint burst. And the final generator pops. Dan symbolizing the last fresh hook stage for Valdez here, who does go for the pickup as the exit gates are already being opened. I think our killer player will be decently happy to just confirm this last hook, this fresh hook, as our survivors make it out through the exit gates. And this is going to be... Wait, let me count. My math sucks. Okay, it's 8 stages for Fresh, for Team Unholy, who are going for a reset right now. Are they going to try and pull this and potentially get one less hook stage? The gate is rather far away, but Dan, who is the hooked survivor, does have Sprint Burst, which is probably the perk you want to see in this situation. So ideally, either Pedro or Ana trade for Dan here, which would symbolize one less stage. I'm not sure whether they'll be able to open this nearby gate or not. Valdez takes a tag onto Pedro. Ana goes for the unhook onto Dan, takes an injury as well. Good body block by Valdez. But the Ghoul is so mobile and always able to catch back up to the survivor. Endurance still ticking. Shelly is there for the hit tank. Beautiful body block. Unfortunately, Dan is still zoned inside the map. Ana is here to take the down for Dan, as Pedro is able to open the second gate. And in the end, the survivors are able to rescue Dan. And we're going to have 7 stages for Fresh. Well played by both sides. Now we'll have to see what Unholy will be able to do on the killer side with Aegis on Survivor. This has been Aegis' pick, so I definitely expect them to be very well prepared for the set. We'll see you right after a short break. Hello everybody, we are back with Aegis versus Unholy in round 4 of Blood Rush League. We're seeing Pedro on killer versus the Aegis survivors of Tech, Fasti, Drago, and Wubex. And we see a very similar build coming through. Pedro finds Wubex, does not get the injury with power, but does enrage himself and is able to get an M1 on this filler. Instead of Wretched Fate, Pedro decides to bring Ruin, and instead of the chain, we are seeing the Satchel add-on, as Wubex is able to make the Shack Vault, wins a very important 50 here, able to extend the first chase for quite a while. Now, I don't know about everybody else, dear viewers, but I'm not too familiar with Pedro's ghoul, as usually for Team Invictus it's a nightlight on this killer. So very excited to see this happen. So far, Ubex is doing a great job, having a pretty damn good fast chase, and Pedro thinks the same and sees himself forced to leave. Ruin value coming through right away as Pedro decides to check on his topside generators. But unfortunately, he cannot find a survivor right away. So far, I would say a better start for Aegis, who did get a very fast first down. But Pedro is able to find Fasty, gets the tag with power, able to enter enraged, as Ruin unfortunately leaves the try a little earlier than Pedro would have liked. Sees Drago on the main building, gets another entry. And if Pedro is able to commit to this chase, it would be a great hook position to have. Decides to kick this pretty progress generator on the top side of the map and retreats back to the bottom side of the map, where he expects a reset to be coming through. So the whole duration of Corrupt Intervention has passed by without a single down coming through. Pedro does see the scratch marks of the survivors on this bottom side of the map. Able to get an injury onto Fasty off this hill. And the resources around Shack have been depleted. So this could be a rather quick chase. At least that's what you're hoping for if you're Pedro. But we have another jungle gym connecting into a Yamaoka tile. That is a pretty strong setup to play on this mid-map for Fasty. Does go read the pallet, go check spots as the first generator on the top side of the map pops. Now, I was just complimenting Fasty's check spots, and unfortunately, I hit him with the caster curse. But first down comes through, first generator completed. Pedro drags Fasty up the map and gets a hook on one of his pain resonance hooks. Now, I don't see a pretty strong, or like a particularly strong 3-gen on the top side. In fact, there are only 2 generators left in combination with 1 top mid generator. So the survivors are in a pretty good position here, having split the map. And Pedro is trying to find a survivor still on the top side, gets a tag onto Drago, who is working the main building. But the rotations are on point. Anuk onto Fasty comes through right as Pedro gets the tag, and another survivor finds Tech on the Claudette, gets another tag onto him through the palace. And another gen on the bottom side of the map pops. Now we have a 2-2 split top and bot with 1 mid-map generator. And we do have another jungle gym that tag drops into Pedro's face. These chases by the survivors have been really long, and that gen pressure has been super good as well. Now, can tag win a 50 here? Unfortunately, that is not the case. Gets downed by Pedro, but a great death spot coming through for the survivor. Luckily, Pedro has a scourge hook right here. Immediately decides to take that and sees the scratch marks of another survivor who must have just gotten reset on the bot side of the map. Pedro decides to not search for that, and then does get a tag onto Ubex. I thought he had already used his third leave there. Ubex just goes back to the bottom side of the map, as Pedro knows that Drago is still working this main building generator. Sees the scratch marks, which just confirm it. Beautiful catch up with the power, gets it down onto Drago, who is going to get hooked on this active generator. Resets are coming through on the bottom side of the map for Team Aegis. And with this gen setup being as split as it is, I'm really liking the position that the survivors are in. If they're able to play it slow, get their resets, and not give Pedro too many free tags, I think they're going to find themselves in a really great position to get an amazing result at the survivor side here. Oh, Blast Mine coming through As Wubix drops the pallet, gets a lot more distance than originally anticipated. Can he win a 50 here? Unfortunately, no life available, and he does go down after vaulting the dropped pallet. Now, the gen split is pretty good for the survivors. Unfortunately, Pedro has really stepped it up with the speed of his chases and has been able to chain a lot of downs back to back, getting all 4 pain resonance hooks out of the way early. So the progress of the survivors has been slowed down drastically. Pedro finds Fasty on this very safe U filler, just holding him there until power comes back. Is he able to get the tag here? Does not quite get it through the little gap. So forced to play this as an M1, which really sucks, because it basically means you either bloodlust this or you leave the chase. Power does become available again, and Fasty takes a tag. Now, with every survivor having been hooked once previously, all of them are of equal value for our killer. Great use of life from Fasty there. Now on the same pallet that just spelled Wubex's demise, and Fasty loses a 50 as well, gets downed and hooked on the bot side of the map again. Another generator pops. I think that was that the mid-map? No, it must have been main building. Pedro finds Tech, who is on the Claudette and still healthy. Just goes for the M1 here and sends it up the map, but at this point, Pedro can get a beautiful cutoff from the window vault. And almost gets it down onto Tech, who makes the vault thanks to resilience. Well played. Pedro gets the vault here. Can Tech make it around one more time? Unfortunately, he cannot. Sprint burst so close to coming back, but not enough. Now, the survivors do have pretty good gen pressure. I think the gen on 5 was roughly 50%. But right now, the survivors are only working bot side generators. Actually, I'm mistaken. They are splitting top and bot, which is very good. But Pedro does find Fasty, who is hovering for the pull, and this could be bad news for the survivor team, because if Fasty gets eliminated and we go into a 3v1 here, that is going to spell trouble for the survivor side. And Pedro just uses the power for the slowdown on the survivor, and this is already going to be the tie condition for the killer side. Now, if Tech dies on this hook, or if Pedro gets one more hook stage, it means Unholy take the first set in the good. So Ubex needs a banger chase here. Most of these resources unfortunately have been depleted. Even if he's able to win this pallet many times, he has nowhere else to go afterwards. What can Ubex do? He does have hope, so if we go to the end game here, maybe there is a chance of making something happen, but yeah, this is looking quite unfortunate for our survivor team. Fasty getting found there just was really bad. Now Ubex winning some good 50s here. Tag is here for the hit tank. But now you're stuck playing this unsafe filler with 2 injured survivors on it. As Tag does decide to leave it. Still has a pallet gym here. Good patience, no revolt coming through. And Pedro decides to drop the chase here as the last generator pops. Drago was not idling. Instead able to complete one last generator for the team. But we still are in the same spot. Interesting, Pedro does not get the hit onto Drago there. They do need to stop Ubex from getting hooked one more time here. And that does... yeah, it's impossible. Ubex goes down here, and this is going to be the necessary result for Pedro to win the match, the set for Team Unholy, which means Unholy go up 1-0 in Aegis' killer pick of their goal. Now, Drago currently staying in the map, has flow state available with 5 stacks, so if an Anno comes through, it's gonna come through 50% faster. As Wubex just doesn't hit the skill checks, goes next. Drago trying to show off their moonwalk abilities as the trial concludes. We will be right back with the Dark Lord on Ironworks 2. Stay tuned. Hello everybody, we are back. We have Wicca on the Dark Lord, which is going to be a treat for everyone to watch. With Aegis surviving, we have Wubex, Manu, Drago, and Tech, and Wicca immediately finds chase onto our Quan. Pounce is being charged and immediately results into an injury. Now, you may have noticed that this is not Ratchet Shop, because we are in fact playing on Ironworks 2 for our Dark Lord. Wubex unfortunately only has a TNL tile to work with and does go down rather quickly into the match. Now Olivia has Agitation available, could go for an early basement hook here, and also has the Pain Resonance available if she decides to prioritize that, which she ends up doing. Now the survivors have already crossed and are actively working generators. So Wicca is now going to look for the survivor that is playing for pull. With such an early down coming through, there is a lot of time for the killer player. And this gen setup around the hook is also looking rather nasty. I can definitely see Olivia getting comfortable in this hook area, because this RNG for Aegis is horrible. Dying bot side should be avoided at all cost. And yeah, I think the Survivor team realizes that if they go for a hook trade here, give Olivia another pain res, and have Survivor stuck in this bot side for gen again, they are going to lose out on a lot of pressure. So I'm assuming that is going to let Wubex hit stage 2 and focus on generators instead. We are seeing them triple split right now, as Wubex unfortunately hits second stage here. I think it's the right call from the Survivor side. The next chase really needs to end outside of this bot gen setup. And we are now able to leave the hook for just a tiny bit, applying some eruption on nearby generators. But yeah, this is such a strong setup for a killer here. Now has eruption on 3 different generators. And Manu has successfully rotated for the pull for the people coming through. And Wubex has the Shag to play, gets mind gamed though, and a quick tag coming through. Shag Pallet does not get dropped here, except it does get dropped by Manu for his teammate. Beautiful play. Wicca in hot pursuit, using the teleport to block the window. Wubex able to win a 50 here, gets the vault back. And the survivors are lining up to take it down for tunnel out. Manu takes the hit, and Wubex is able to extend the chase further to the top side of the map. Window gets blocked, eye loop playable, beautiful stun onto Wicca. Pickup coming through right in the face of the killer. The survivors are playing very aggressively, because they know that Wicca is going to be focused on this chase and this chase alone. We have another body to be thrown between Wicca and Wubex, extending the first tunnel out so much longer. A third generator pops, and right now Wicca only has 2 hook stages to show for it. This down needs to come through, and it does. Wubex dies under a pallet. Can a save come through here? No, nobody's playing for it. The survivors are happy with how long this chase was lasting. And they really decimated the gen setup here. Wicker, who had a 5 gen, now has a loose 3 gen. Still on the bot side, but a lot of pressure lost. Finds Drago. Gets a quick tag with the pounce, and Drago decides to send it back to the bot side of the map, knowing that a lot of resources have been used up to make Wubex's chase last longer. And Wicker with the beautiful Hellfire hit on the filler pallet gets another Pain Resonance. And seeing that Wicker is deciding to not hook on Shaq, it makes me think that our killer is playing for a 4K2 here rather than a 4K1. I'm loving the confidence, and I want to see how Wicker makes it happen. Sniffs out Manu, hovering for the pull. What a beautiful find. And this spells trouble for the survivors. Now another person has to rotate, has to get off the generator, has to get Drago off this hook. What a beautiful and quick find from Wicker. Further cementing her statement of wanting to play for 4K2 here. I don't know. This gen split is... I think the 3 gen is definitely holdable. Playing for the 4K2 looks a bit greedy to me, but with this find, I think it might actually be doable. Now Wicker does see tech, which means she knows that our injured Manu is working a topside gen. Ah, beautiful dodge by Claudette coming through. And Wicker does see Manu crossing here. Unfortunate situation of the survivors running into each other a bit. And if Wicker can get a quick down here and get another Pain Res hook, Drago hits stage 2. Wicker applies Eruption. And Manu does not have enough charges in his medkit to reset one more time. And this chase now needs to last, because we all know that in a 2v1 it's so unlikely for one more generator to get completed. Now Wicker does have Eruption on the active gens, which means committing to this shouldn't be a problem. She does get a fast down onto Drago, leaving the Aegis survivors in a 2v1. We're gonna need some spectacular chases, individual performances here to make this result somehow into a 4K1. Wicker finds Manu on the Ormond tile. Lithe is available for Ania. And text generator is at roughly 60%. Manu gets the vault. Doesn't revault, but gets downed here. And this should spell the end for Team Aegis' survivor side. Wicker finds tech and can commit to this chase, knowing that no anti-slug is in play. Now, unfortunately, one perk that I would have really loved to see used did not come into play here. Drago was running the Rick Grimes perk, Come and Get Me, which removes your scratch marks, pools of blood, and injury sounds after you get an unhook and press the action button, which can really mess with Dracula Dark Lord's tracking, especially in the bat form. So that would have been a great... Oh my goodness! That would have been a great tool to prevent the tunnel out even further. But yeah, if you have both that and For the People available, I definitely get why you would go for the People instead. Wicker with the flick, unfortunately does not quite hit here. Barely misses the pounce as well. But yeah, this one is just 4 style points. Are we gonna go for one more flick? Of course we are. Actually, just gonna go for the M1. Beautifully played by Wicker. Confirming the 4K with 2 generators left remaining for Team Unholy. What a great result. And I really love the confidence of these very experienced killer players, just knowing that they can achieve a 4K2 here. They find the rotation, they know the active generators, and they think to themselves, okay, I can do this, I don't need to camp. Yeah, I could play for a guaranteed 4K1, but you know what? I'm gonna make it 4K2. Now this definitely puts the pressure on Team Aegis' killer, and I'm really excited to see how this match is going to continue. See you all after a short intermission. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, we are back on the Ironworks of Misery, and Team Aegis has their back against the wall. Fasti needs a 4k2 to tie, a 4k3 to win. And we have Anna, Wicker, Dan, and Fabio on the survivor side, as Fasti immediately finds chase onto Wicker, who is in her element. Just got a 4k2 on the Dark Lord, and Fasti is like, nope, I am having none of that. Drops chase on the shack to go to the top side of the map. And we're seeing a very different gen split compared to the last time. Well, last match we had a very heavy bot side generator split. This time most of the generators are on the top side of the map, as Fasti finds Fabio here on the eye loop, using this crate beautifully to block the Hellfire. And Fasti sees himself forced to break the pallet. Now we do have tiny changes to the builds here. Fasti is running Hex Wretched Fate, which is going to slow down the Obsession's gen progress as soon as the first generator gets completed. Fasti finds Dan, who has a beautiful dodge away from the pounds on this jungle gem, and Fasti still has not found his first injury cry yet. Dan attempts to jiggy here, gets tagged by the wolf, and Fasti does have the pounds available again. Dan stuck on the TNL. Some wolf form mind games coming through, but Dan does not get caught off guard. Wins the vault and makes a beautiful distance here, able to extend the chase for quite a while. Fasti not switching to the vampire form here. Resilience not enough to save Dan, who dies after vault. But this has been a much longer chase than the first chase for the Aegis survivor side. But at the same time, the generator progress from our Team Unholy survivors is not quite as high as they would like, as we see Anna and Wicker stacking the main generator. Fasti was just able to commit to another chase on a survivor who's working topside, which explains why the gen progress is not just quite there yet. Fasti did see Anna there. Decides to go for Eruption on the generator. Sees scratch marks of a potential savior. And here we have Come and Get Me in action, which means Dan leaves no grunts of pain, no pools of blood, but Fasti just reads it perfectly and is able to find Dan regardless. Now the real value of this perk that Fabio was able to use after unhooking our Quan comes with the bad form tracking, as Dan does get downed a second time here. But yeah, not the value I wanted to see, but still a great attempt from the Unholy survivor side. Great fast down from Fasti as well, but Fasti really has to work for everything here. Not in a position where he's allowed to camp. High progress on the main generator. But good news for Team Aegis, no generator has popped just yet. And we don't see any generators close to completion either. The highest one being the one that Fabio is currently working. Now we need to see the For the People survivor rotating to help Dan try and not get tunneled out here. Anna is there, but unfortunately not able to use For the People, as Fasti hits both of them with the Hellfire. Able to track Dan effortlessly here, who has to make something happen on this pallet. Decides to skip the tile, not able to dodge the pounds. And this is going to be Dan leaving the trial at 4 generators remaining. This is starting to look rather spicy. If you're playing for 4k3, this is definitely the start you want to have. Early tunnel out, 1 injury on the board, and Wretched Fate still active. And Fasty is able to find the injured Ana here. Are we able to dodge the Hellfire using the tree stump as a line of sight blocker? Well played. Unfortunately has nothing to play on this edge map and does go down. But Wicca is able to pop another generator just in time before the Scourge Hook can come through. Now, unfortunately for Fabio, the Hex Wretched Fate has not been found yet, which means our Detective tab is going to be on unhooking duty, which fits his build quite well, so nothing to worry about there. But in this situation, you can only ever have one survivor on generators at all times, and if Fasty is able to find the person playing for pull here, just like Wicca did earlier, it's going to spell trouble for the survivors. But Fabio able to use Come and Get Me yet again, allowing Ana to fully disappear without any scratch marks, pools of blood. Great patience on this pallet. The M1 does come through onto Fabio. Fasty just decides to play for injuries here, wanting to catch survivors later once they're injured. Sees a crow on the edge map and finds our last healthy survivor in Wicca. Pallet gets dropped as Ana is able to reset herself. Great 50 on this dropped pallet from Wicca. Still has finesse available. This really is the chase that Team Unholy needs right now. Wicca is just winning all of the 50s. Okay. Fasty refuses to break the pallet, wants to play this in wolf form. And finally, Fasty's turn to win a 50. Gets the M1 onto Wicca, but now our survivors have had so much time to get back onto generators. Fasty is going to feel the pressure here. Needs a fast down now, but Wicca still has more filler pallets to play. Now Fasty really prioritizing the wolf form here, and does finally get the down onto Wicca, which symbolizes another Scourge Hook Pain Resonance. But this was just the chase that the survivor side of Unholy needed to turn this into at least a 4k2. We're seeing Fabio working the main building as a very aggressive pull comes through. The survivors want to keep Fabio undisturbed on main building. Beautiful hit through the pallet, coming through onto Ana. Great patience on the pallet vault. Wolf form coming through, and unfortunately, this is just a 50 that is super hard to win. Ana goes down again. Main generator does have a lot of progress though. Is Fasty going to check on it? Has a window to teleport to, but due to the killer doll being the add-on of his choice, unfortunately not quite as much range as Wicca had available earlier. And since this generator has been manned by a survivor still afflicted by Wretched Fate, it did not pop in time. So great awareness by Fasty, playing into his own perks, life coming through. If Fabio is able to last here and to postpone the Scourge Hook Pain Resonance that this Fresh Hook would symbolize, that would be so big for Team Unholy. Dodges the Hellfire. Makes it back to the pallet, but dies through the vault. But the generator gets popped by Wicca and Ana. So tie condition has been met by Unholy. Now, I've been told by the staff that the average result on this map for a previous tournament was 4k2. So far, expected results from both sides. Now is Unholy going to be able to pop another generator and take a quick 2-0? Or are we going to the tiebreaker here? Fasty does find Ana with a great find on the edge map. And Ana on Death Hook. Vaults the window, but gets hit with the M1 shortly after. Fasty dropping the chase. Expecting a survivor to be rotating for the pull. Doesn't see progress on main. Well, sees that main is still regressing. Sees Ana's scratch marks on the top side. Slow vault coming through. Oh, beautiful use of the wolf form by Fasti here. And with Ana on the floor, Wicca is forced to make the rotation. No one can currently unhook as Fabio hits second stage and Fasti does fight our Lori. What can Wicca do for her team here? Playing the Z-Wall, okay. Can we juke? No, we cannot. We just get a rundown, we dive through vault, and Fasti is able to tie the 4K2. Very well played. I'm very surprised because on Wretched Shop, where Dracula is usually played, a 4K2 would be an outstanding result, and I do think that with the way Wicca played it for Team Unholy, it was already really impressive, but Fasti showing his own expertise on the killer, able to bring us to the tiebreaker, which is going to be, drumroll please, the Blight on Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. We're gonna throw you to a quick intermission and then we'll see you in just a bit. Her, 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 her. We are on Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. We've got Tech on the Blight, and we've got Pedro, Dan, Shelly, and Anna on the survivor side. Now, if Tech is able to win the set, we're gonna go to 1-1 and replay the Dark Lord set. If Unholy is able to come out on top, it means 2 wins for Unholy and they win the match. And Tag does find Dan here who pre-drops track, pre-drops everything. And now on this, ooh, beautiful stun on the jungle gym, goes right back to Shaq. But yeah, if you see a survivor pre-drop everything, if you see a survivor with the medkit, that might be a little sign in a Blight set, but Tech decides he needs to drop Chase, instead finds Pedro, who is playing one of my favorite builds versus the Blight, gets Champion of Light value right away on the double pallet setup, and Tech finds another person, beautiful hit onto Dan through the window vault, and now is the time where Tech wants to commit. Rushes past Orquan. Beautiful patience on this filler, but great bump logic coming through, securing the first down of the match. First generator pops as well. The survivor side has not been idling, but if we check the builds, Dan was in fact our Deliverance player, which explains the pre-dropping of intense magnitudes. Now Tech finds Pedro again on the very same double pallet, finesse and Champion of Light. This is the build that I was talking earlier. I think I have seen Pedro play this very build for Invictus before, and I've been really fascinated by it. Sorry about the gap, but that is just a little insight. As Tag finds Dan again in this main building where the generator already has been completed. And the structures in this building are so complicated for Blight to play. But Tech makes it work. A beautiful bump logic yet again makes it through a lot of very narrow doorways. And is able to get Dan to second stage very early into the game. Dies on an active gen as well that Shelly has been working. So it's looking really good for a killer so far. Especially with the powerful perk Deliverance being removed from the trial already. Unfortunately, Shelly does take a tag through the pallet here. Cannot stay around for the pull and cannot work with the generator any longer. Tag decides to get some ruin value here. In a nice position to camp both the generator and the hook. And Tag just using the geometry of the map, using some rocks and trees to stop Tag from getting a free tag onto him. Sorry about the bad pun. Pedro decides it's time to trade. Uses Overcome to make it to the hook. Able to unhook Dan just in time. Goes down. And Tech decides to go for a slug here as another generator is popped by the survivor side. Really wants Dan out of this trial, and knowing that no deliverance has come through, well, Dan has been the only hooked survivor, but yeah, no decisive strike so far. Tech is going to be feeling very good about this. This is the geometry in the main building that I was talking about. Very awkward for the Blight to play. And Dan used the Dead Heart there, unfortunately misses it. Doesn't matter because Tech misses as well. Another double pallet setup coming through for the survivor side here. Dan drops it and Tech breaks it. And Tech decides to bait, leaving the chase just a little bit here. Can he convert this last rush onto Dan? No, he can't. Buying more valuable time into this dead zone part of the map. Dan takes it back to the main building, prioritizing the death spot, allowing his team to pop more generators. 2 pallets still standing, the Blight blood rushing. Blood lusting, my bad. Blood rushes is the league we're playing in, I'm sorry. As Dan gets removed from the trial with just 1 generator remaining. Honestly, a great recovery from the survivor side off the back of a great chase from Dan. Ruin has been cleansed from the trial, and our 3-gen is very far spread. We have 2 gens on the top left side of the map and 1 on the bottom right side of the map, as Pedro does go down here. Gets hooked, and Tech in the 3v1 has to make sure that the survivors don't end up popping another generator. Of course, for the Blight, with his great map traversal, it's always possible to contest any generator on the map. This map is also quite easy to navigate, since there are not a lot of choke points or tiles blocking your way, except for the main building. Tag does find Shelly here. Shelly forces the plot twist, preventing the killer from playing for slug pressure here. Tag forced to pick up and go for a hook, as the unhook onto Pedro comes through, as well as the reset thanks to Resurgence. Now Tech discovers this generator at roughly 50%, applies Eruption and Call of Brine, and is now looking for another, hopefully, fast chase. There's a bit of progress, but not able to find the survivor that has been working this generator. Good stealth from Pedro, who is on the nearby rock, as Eruption procs because of plot twist. But Shelly gets found right away. This screams Decisive Strike. And that is indeed Decisive Strike paired with Life for some extra distance versus this S-tier killer. Can Shelly win this pallet? She can, but unfortunately gets downed right after. Now, as we speak, Pedro is the only survivor that is able to work a generator, because Ana is just playing for pole. Tag prioritizing hook position here, getting the survivor closer to the gen that he knows is being progressed. And we do see it at roughly 60% progress. And Pedro is starting to run out of pallets. Unfortunately, Tech does not get the conversion rush there. Bumps into a tree and is forced to fatigue. Now in chase with Pedro again. The Greenville Square jungle gyms are shaped slightly awkwardly, as they have a little indent on the pallet side, making it harder for the survivor to access those resources. Now Pedro on the filler, beautiful bump logic from Tech, doesn't get caught off guard by Pedro's movement and secures a fast down onto the Claudette, who gets hooked next to 2 generators. So this is looking like a 4K1 for Team Aegis, which would be a pretty respectable result. Especially considering this is such an uncommon map, and I don't think many Blights have a lot of scrim time on this very rule set. Tech sees Shelly, who's playing for the Unholy here, decides to go for Pedro instead, who is still injured. Vaults the main building, great fast vault, and we do know that there is still pallets available here. Oh, a little bit of a back bump here. Great pathing and patience from Pedro, and Tag sees himself forced to leave the chase to stop the generators one more time. Crucial information coming through from Call of Brian there. Shelly gets tagged through the pallet yet again, which is super unfortunate. Only has a double window TNL set up to play here, doesn't even make it there, and goes down, which leaves our survivors in a 2v1. Which basically confirms the result of 4 kills with 3 generators left remaining. We're going to need some exceptional chases here. Beautiful conversion rush onto Ana, who had the sprint burst, but Tech with the bump logic able to still secure a hit there. But these gens couldn't be any further apart from each other. So as soon as one chase lasts for a tiny bit too long, the survivors do threaten to pop the last generator. So our killer needs to be on the lookout for that. Needs to be very resourceful with the time that he invests into chasing every individual survivor. Pedro has this rather unsafe car pallet. As soon as the rushes come back, this is very playable for Tech. Reads the pallet. Pallet comes down, and there is nothing our Claudette can do. Pedro goes down again. We know that Unbreakable is not on Pedro's build. Tech has Aura onto Lara, onto Ana, gets the down, and the 4K1 gets secured for Team Aegis. Now on Suffocation Pit, I would say 4K1 is a very good result. I'm really not too sure about Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. This is a first for me, I apologize. But I do think that Dan being able to extend the first tunnel out played a big role in the survivors being able to complete 4 generators at least. And we will see how the killer side for Unholy is going to handle this map themselves. See you all after a quick intermission. Thank you so much for watching. We are back for the potential last match of this set. We have Pedro on the killer, who already sees Manu in the distance. And for the Aegis survivor side, we have Tech, Wubex, Manu, and Drago on Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, as Pedro starts his first chase with Manu as we speak. We're seeing 2 totems in the trial. We're seeing Wretched Fate and Ruin instead of the more consistent Call of Brian. Pedro takes attack onto Manu and decides, I don't want any of that. I want to stop the survivors from completing my generators. Unfortunate little double bump there, as he does find Tech in this jungle gym. Not able to convert the rushes into a hit, and Manu already self-reset with a medkit. Now the survivors are playing this very slow. Definitely want to make sure that their deliverance comes through. And Pedro, gets a beautiful hit onto Wubex, predicts the window vault here. After unfortunately double bumping, and we do see Ruin leaving the trial. Now Wubex does have 1 more pallet to work with before he makes it to Shack, wins the vault. Can we win more 50s on this drop pallet? Gets stuck on the tree just a tiny bit and does go down. First down of the trial. No generator completed just yet. But the good news for Team Aegis is that Wubix is probably the exact person you want to be, you want to have for your first down. As Pedro makes it to the main building, applying Eruption on this generator, sees Manu in the distance, but again decides he wants a different target. Of course, Pedro wants to make sure he gets the tunnel out rather early. Last game, we saw the tunnel out at 1 generator remaining, and that did turn out to be the final result for the killer. So Pedro does need a 4k2 here, while our survivors just need to pop all of the generators. Unhook onto Wubix comes through. Pedro far away from the tunnel out right now. Wins a little 50 on the window, predicts Tech's vault. Still has a jungle gym to play. Beautiful, quick rush combination. Pedro gets an effortless down onto Tech on the dropped jungle gym. Really well played. Survivors are still at 5 generators remaining. And Pedro getting a hook right between 2 active generators is going to feel very good about himself and his chances of winning this match for Team Unholy. He's going to apply Eruption on the main building again, wanting to deny the dancing animatronics from Team Aegis. Pedro is a party pooper confirmed. Now he's looking for the survivor playing for the Unhook. But he knows that he has such a tight gen split here that camping is probably very advisable. It has a regressing generator right next to the hook, able to quickly check on this main building gen as well. Finds Manu again, and we do see our survivors currently triple splitting with no one really in the position to play for the pull. Now this works out for as long as survivors don't give bad tags. And Manu takes a very good tag here, allowing him to just trade for Tech before Tech hits stage 2. Beautiful survivor play. Can Tech make something happen? Has another double pallet setup to play here. Pedro playing it the right way though, just immediately breaking one of them, making it such a much weaker structure that way. Another double pallet. Sure, Pedro's not tired of seeing those. Has to break it one more time, and this allows Tech to make shack. Now this is definitely not the easy tunnel out that Pedro was hoping for. And if this chase drags out for too long... Oh, what a beautiful body block from Tech! Knowing the distance between the shack and the Blight perfectly. This is why you have the Blight main on the Blight set, as Pedro does get a down, but this one has come through much delayed. And beautiful death spot from Tech as well, dying where the gens have already been completed, making great use out of all the pallets on the map, dropping shack, just, yeah, picture perfect survivor play, great macro play. And Pedro now has to scramble to be able to contest his topside generators again. One saving grace for him is Hex Wretched Fate, which has been slowing down Wubex's gen progress by a whopping 33% throughout this entire time. So very smart decision making from Pedro to not focus the obsession too much and instead trying to find a different tunnel out. Beautiful V1 tech, but an even more beautiful Dead Heart coming through from Wubex, who has another jungle gym to play here. Bad news for Pedro, but even worse news for Wubex, who doesn't have the check spot for this one. Well, just predicts Pedro to make a different play and ends up costing him his life. Now gets hooked on his very own high progress generator, but the survivors have prevented the tunnel out, have popped 3 generators so far. If one more gen gets completed, that means that the Aegis survivors have already achieved the tie condition. So we're going to need to see a lot of pressure from Pedro here. And Tech is exactly the survivor you want to find in this situation. Being on death hook, finesse, no value, But Tag does make it back to Shaq. Jen gets kicked. But we can just assume that the survivors that have been near the hook are going to double that high progress Gen on 9. Beautiful! Down onto Manu, who is going to get slugged for just a little bit. Pedro, knowing that more survivors are nearby, knows the location of Drago, knows the location of Wubex, and all-you-can-eat buffet at the pizzeria for our Blight. Now this Jungle Gym pallet is still up. We do know that Wubex has Dead Heart available. The mind games, and Pedro just swings through it, expecting Wubex to expect Pedro to expect that Wubex was not gonna use it. But I guess he expected the wrong thing. Now Drago working on this generator, which is at 99%. Drago pops the gen, secures tie condition for his team. Manu still on the ground. Tag working his second generator off in the distance. Can Pedro stop the last gen from popping here? It is so high. Cannot find the conversion. After the rushes, this gen is at roughly 95% as well. And yeah, with this generator setup, Pedro knows it's a 2-1 split for the survivors, and this might not be holdable. We're going to need to see a slugging masterclass here, as Pedro finds Drago on the edge map, but Drago has a very good park available for himself, which is, of course, plot twist, which means if Pedro doesn't hook Drago here, Drago is gonna get back up, be healthy, and Pedro is going to lose a lot of pressure. The problem is, if Pedro hooks Drago there, well, Tech just pops the generator on the other side of the map. So Pedro falls into a lose-lose situation here. Drago picks himself back up, back to full health. Another double pallet coming through, stopping Tech from being eliminated from the trial. Beautiful flare coming through. This Claudette has been surviving for so much longer than she had any right to. And there we see it in the distance. The 5th generator is completed, which means we're going to replay the Dark Lord set as both teams are at 1-1. Really, really good survivor play here from Aegis. And again, it's a very unusual map for Blight. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, that is. So I can't really fault Pedro for getting a worse result here. Beautiful body blocks from Drago. And this means that the survivors escape through the exit gates. We're gonna see you in just a bit for the rematch of the Dark Lord set, which the teams tied at 4K2. Let's see if they can do it again and if we're going to be here all night. Hello everybody, we are back on Ironworks of Misery 2. We have Wicca on the Dark Lord, Drago, Manu, Fasti, and Tech on Survivor. And Wicca immediately finds her first chase onto Fasti. Gets a beautiful pounce on the upstairs main building. This is a very bad place. Oh no! I was about to say it's a very bad place to loop the killer on, but apparently it's really great to juke the bad teleport, as Wicca unfortunately blocks the wrong window and decides to leave the chase as a consequence. We have the very same builds that we saw in the previous Dark Lord set, but this is really unlucky for Wicca. That would have been such a fast down. Yet again, just unfortunately getting the teleport prompt on the wrong window, and the survivors are able to reset Fasti. But Wicca is able to find the reset here. Sees Manu and Fasti both in the corrupt intervention area of the map. As Fasti just holds W, holds great distance on the main building, has this really strong filler pallet. Can Wicca hit the Hellfire? Of course she can. Beautiful tag. But we have a jungle gym here, which is going to be very safe for Fasti to play. Fasti, who previously played the Dark Lord for Team Aegis, is going to know exactly what this killer can and can't do. And he does get downed through the window. First down coming through a bit later than in our first game. And a bit later than Wicca would have liked. Really good start for our survivor side. But Wicca yet again has a nice 4-gen setup on the bottom side of the map and is able to hook Fasti right in the middle of it. Unfortunately, not as nice of a hook as it was in the first game, where she basically was able to camp out the survivor fully while still retaining a lot of control over all of the generators. But this one should suffice for now. Now, if Wicca is able to find the Savior as fast as she did in the last set, she's going to be in a great position. But this time, Manu gets it for free. And Wicca is left on the back foot. Fasti able to potentially have a really good death spot. Now that the first generator has been completed. Greets the pallet here. And a beautiful juke on the second pounce, able to extend this chase. Wicca switching to vampire form. Nice dodge by Fasti. And just sends it to the edge map to die full corner, buying a lot more time for his team. What a great chase by Fasti. Using the emote tech as well to truly die corner. And 2 generators completed for the survivor side. This is such a different pace to what we saw in the previous Dark Lord sets. We do see Wicca clearly on the back foot here. We need some exceptional killer plays, some great finds at the rotation to make something happen, especially with the average result seemingly being 4k2. That is a win condition that is very close to being met already. And Manu is able to get the For the People for free as well. And Wicca left without any new injuries. Very little map pressure currently. Sees the injured Manu, but what we need is a tunnel out right now. This would symbolize Pain Resonance hook, of course. Lithe comes through, well played by Manu. And a nice dodge on the pounce as well. Manu not able to make it to Shack, just going to die on another completed generator. The survivors are definitely turning up the pace, having really good death spots, really good chases, just ever so slightly buying time for themselves and for Team Aegis. Now the tie condition for last game has been achieved with the 4k2 here. But this is a very, very different game state to what we were watching earlier. Wicca does not have a tunnel out. Wicca does not have any injuries. And Wicca doesn't even have a tied 3-gen to hold here. Tech takes an injury and is able to just send it to Shack, which still represents a lot of safety for the survivors. And this tight web of generators has been broken successfully. Wicca in chase with Manu. This Hellfire needs to hit, and it does. Great knowledge of the Dark Lord's hitboxes here coming through from Wicca, catching Manu off guard and putting him back on the hook in record time. We see Tech getting reset, and in the distance we have Drago working away at another generator. A lot of disturbed crows in this area. Can we find the ace that's been hiding here? Unfortunately, we cannot, and Wicca is making her way back to the unhook. I know I've been hyping up Come and Get Me, but unfortunately, Aegis not in a position where they can properly use the park. This is such a nasty setup. The eye loop connecting into the window. Wicca has to drop Chase here. Gets an injury onto Drago, who is another fresh hook. But we know that the gen pressure from the survivor is unrelenting. Even if Drago cannot have a long chase here, the death spot is very good. And we do see Tech having a generator highly progressed off in the distance. Pain Resonance not within reach for Wicca. And she does just have to hook on this mid-map hook. And this symbolizes the 4th generator popping for the survivor side. Wicca sees Tech, the last fresh hook. This eye loop still not broken. Sees Fasty, who would represent the tunnel out. But Fasty makes distance on the main building. And Wicca is just trying to get some injuries on the board, trying to get any pressure on the map right now, anything to work with here. Gets a hit onto Tech on the edge map, but again, this is so far away from the generators. This is on a jungle gym, the pallet is still up. And unfortunately, Wicca is not able to get the body block there. Drago gets a reset in the distance. Yet again, we see a generator at roughly 50% progress. And a body block coming through as well. Wicca elects to instead take the fatigue on the rock for a slightly shorter cooldown. The U filler comes down. And Wicca does get it down onto Tag, who unfortunately falls into the arms of the Dark Lord, but the last generator gets completed. Wicca has a hook right next to an exit gate, which means she will be able to stop the survivors from opening this one. But if I'm on the survivor side and all previous games have been 4K2s, I'm really happy to just get a couple of stages out of the gate here. This is already shaping up to be a great result for Team Aegis. And even though they could optimize who gets left behind in the trial here, which ideally would be Manu or Fasty, I think just taking the outs here is a great option for Team Aegis. They are going for the reset in the distance though. Wicca knows where Manu is. He's going to try to play for an injury here, but is a little bit worried about another survivor sneakily going for the unhook instead. And the survivors are eager to get just one more stage out of the gate here, since it's most likely going to be a trade versus the Dark Lord. But if they can pull this off properly... Okay. Drago represents the same stages as Tech does. Wicca interrupts Manu off the exit gate. And just goes for a potential pickup. Finds Fasty with the flashlight though. Wicca goes for the pickup. Same stages between Drago and Tech. And Wicca is just going to drag the survivor further into the map. Unfortunately, due to basement being in check, there is no hook available on 7, 8-ish. So she has to deal with this mid-map hook. And yet again, the survivors think they can get more stages out of the gate here. Which in my opinion is a very risky decision, especially versus Dark Lord, because you can always injure at least the person that unhooks the survivor with your Hellfire. Fasty being annoying with the flashlight, making sure that it's as hard as possible for Wicca to get the Hellfire, and somehow Drago avoids the BT tag. Body block trying to come through, but Wicca sneaks past Fasty and gets down onto Manu, which is going to leave us with 8 stages for fresh. What a great result for the survivor side. Team Unholy is really going to have to work if they want to take this one home. Right now, it's looking great for Aegis, and we're going to see you after a quick intermission. Hello everybody, we are back for yet again potentially a final time. Fasti is killing for Aegis and Fasti needs 9 stages for fresh, as he does find Wicca relatively early into the game on the shack. Great use of the bad form, able to just play for the M1 here. Shack Pallet does come down, but Fasti is able to secure the tag onto Wicca. Now the survivors need an astonishing result here of 7 stages, which seems super hard. Wicca tries to leave the tile, but Fasti sees it and is having none of it, gets it down, gets a pain res, and this one came through much faster than the first down for Wicca. The survivors are immediately put on the back foot. Fasti transforms into the wolf form, sees Dan on a generator in the distance. No ruin in play here, which means Fasti immediately gets access to Eruption. And I'm not sure if you're also seeing this wonderful spectator bug, but we have the wolf bat form on my screen, and I just love when that happens. But yeah, Fasti is in such a luxurious position here, able to just camp Wicca, knowing that it is pretty much impossible for the survivors to get any meaningful gen pressure in the time that Fasti spends camping this hook, just because of the win condition being so generous, requiring only 9 hook stages total. So ideally, the survivors get the unhook before stage 2 here, and they get it without a trade, which against Dracula screams impossible. So I'm expecting the survivors to just accept Wicca's fate, letting her hit 2nd stage here, and just prioritizing the splitting of generators. Yet again, we see a Wretched Fate in play, which means a 33% generator slowdown for the Obsession. And since Wicca is not the Obsession, this is really going to hurt the survivor side. Fasti gets Eruption on this generator, as Dan is able to get the unhook and use For the People onto our Laurie's throat. Now, can Wicca stealth this out? If she is able to not get found by the killer here and buy some valuable time, it could look really good for Unholy, but unfortunately Fasti has the scent and finds Wicca on the edge map. Now this pallet is just a 50, Hellfire comes up, Wicca not able to dodge it. And this means that our first survivor is going to leave the trial at 4 generators remaining. This is looking incredible for Team Aegis, and every one of Unholy survivors need to make an incredible chase happen. This is now entirely dependent on individual chase prowess. And we do find the injured Dan, still broken from For the People, in chase with Fasti. Feller has already been dropped. Wolf form giving you 3rd-person advantage and a small speed boost as well. And unfortunately, Dan loses track of Fasti here and loses a 50 to go along with it. Fasti goes for the pickup onto Dan. Another generator gets completed for Team Unholy's survivor side, which means we are down to 2 generators remaining. Now, one great news for the Unholy survivors is by using For the People, of course, the Obsession changed, which means that Pedro no longer has a penalty on the generators, but unfortunately, Pedro gets caught out playing for the unhook, and this could seal the deal right here. Pedro dodges the Hellfire. Fabio makes the rotation, gets the unhook onto Dan. Has Come and Get Me available. But Fasty is confident to just play for another injury here. Potentially committing onto the fresh hook. Fabio has the eye loop to play, still has life available. Able to get the exhaustion perk off. Fasty, who's been really prioritizing the wolf form on the chase, can get it down with the Pouncy, instead gets the pallet break. Fabio makes it to another relatively safe filler. Never mind, it's a 4 lane, I was wrong. Playing this 4 lane very well though. Makes it back to the filler. No wolf form coming through just yet. Wins a 50. Beautiful chase so far by Fabio. This is exactly what Unholy needs. Oh my goodness, the patience on not revolting there. Fasty pounces, breaks the pallet. And Fabio with an incredible chase here. Trying to do everything in his power to keep Unholy in this game. The pallet gets dropped. Can he make it to the vault? He does not go down. Fasty gets a little scammed on the vault there. Fabio just playing this 4 lane to perfection, but then slow vaults the window, which results in a down. I mean, I think even though this last vault was a bit of a blunder, Fabio made something happen with very little. But we are getting very close to our win condition. Quick reminder, the win condition for Fasty is 9 stages for fresh. Finds Pedro and Chase now. And another relatively safe filler. Pedro goes for vault. Trying to dodge the pounce, but Fasty is patient, doesn't send it, and commits for another fresh hook. Now Pedro only has the snake tile to play. Oh, beautiful stun, that's going to be smashed as well. And Pedro is able to get some very good distance between himself and Fasty. Vaults back and gets downed. Now this is the 4th fresh hook coming through for Fasty and Team Aegis, which means another hill hook, another painless, and during this time Wretched Fate still has not been cleansed and has been eating away at Dance Gen progress. Now we are currently at 6 stages for fresh. Unholy is only able to give away 1 more hook stage if they want the win condition. Anno comes through very fast. No for the people this time. They are putting all of the eggs into the Pedro basket. Trusting Pedro to have a great chase here. To be fair, I do think it's a very good basket to put your eggs into. Pedro also still has... Ooh, beautiful snipe right between the trees. Hits Pedro with the Hellfire. And this means the tie condition has been met. Now, if the teams tie again, we go again. We get our infinite Dark Lord set. But from this... 1 more hook is the tie condition. I'm sorry, I've just been confirmed. I've just been informed from the back end. As an unhook comes through yet again. But Fasty is going to feel very confident here now. Dan gets injured rather quickly. Window gets blocked. Now only has the L of the TNL to play. Now entity blocked by is the other window. No filler on this pallet. And Fasty with great patience doesn't risk anything. Getting the down on to Dan. And we do have Fabio and Pedro working away at the last generator in the distance. Pain Resonance had already been used up. The survivors are trying their hardest to pop this last generator. Tag onto Fabio. Adrenaline onto Fabio. And Fasty has caught a tiny bit off guard. His jungle gym is still up. And Fabio just leaves the tile. Pedro trying to get the unhook, knowing that if Dan gets eliminated here, it represents the win condition for Aegis. Beautiful double vault on the already dropped 4-lane pallet. Pedro is playing this so well versus the wolf farm. Makes another filler. Dan gets unhooked just in time. How much longer can the survivors last here? The odds are against you, against this wolf farm Dracula. And Pedro feels just that. Dan running into the chase. We ask ourselves the question, who has the cracker? It is in fact Dan, but Basti faces the other way. The elimination comes through. And this means the win condition has been met. Dan unfortunately not able to dodge another pounce as Fabio struts out of the exit gate after having a great individual performance on Survivor. We are seeing the Mori, and this means Aegis wins 2-1 over Unholy in an absolute banger of a matchup. What a fun time this was. Congratulations to Aegis, well played to Unholy, and thank you all so much for watching.